Hey everybody, it's your favorite English 11 American Lit people back again with another hype video, this time for Chapter 5. And I'll borrow Mr. Eliot's language. Everything in the plot of this book hinges on this chapter. We've been building to the point where Gatsby and Daisy are going to collide. And we're going to see that in Chapter 5. It's a rich chapter. And for the questions this week, we have 4 things that you can keep a close eye on as you read.
The first question, if you choose it, is about eyes and the importance of eyes, either what you see, what they watch in Chapter 5. So it reminds me a little bit of a little story, and that is that when I used to do something bad, my mom used to say, Shelley, you may not tell me the truth, but someone is always watching. Anyway, just reminds me of this question. Continue.
The next thing that we want you to pay attention to is this concept of houses. If you remember back in Chapter 1, our first introductions, when Nick was standing outside his $80 a month rental cardboard house and making that comparison to the gigantic mansion that loomed not several hundred yards off in the distance. So Chapter 5 also brings us back to this idea of paying attention to this domestic living arrangements in comparison. So keep your sharp eye out for that as well.
Mm-hmm. The next thing that you want to watch for is references to water, and more than just a glass of water. Look at maybe the weather and different descriptions of water within the chapter. Water in literature can often be very symbolic.
Rain on my cars of baptism.
So think about what water might represent and what it might mean throughout Chapter 5.
And finally, the most obvious would be time. I think we've already talked about time in Chapter 4 when we found out that Gatsby and Daisy had this past. When I think about time, I think of the strange times we're living in right now, and the idea that some of us feel like racing time because we want to be able to leave the house again. But really pay attention to time and think about that idea of where Gatsby is with that.
Those are all major aspects of Chapter 5 that we're going to dig into. One minor aspect, but it's fun to talk about, has to do with shirts. And I'll leave you in suspense. You'll know it when you read it. So as Mrs. Venema mentioned, you are going to have 2 questions this week. So out of those that we talked about, you'll be digging into more than likely a couple of them. So keep an eye out as you read Chapter 5.
Mm-hmm.
Bye, everyone.
Good luck.
Good luck.
My son literally is through that wall right there, and he just called me.
This is where we're at.
The virtual life.
I know.
Mm-hmm.